for those who are not familiar with that.
Alchemy is nothing more, and I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. You want to know what alchemy is? For those who ever had tea, you see the contents of your tea, and you take it in water, you take two substances to make something new.
Right, exactly,
water
yeah.
and tea, that is your alchemy. That is the simplest, I think, way that it can ever be said without, because I'm getting tired of even reading stuff where people are, trying to talk so over your head using all of these Latin terms in order to confuse most people's brains when
exactly.
You can make it really said in simple terminology, But back to the serpent. The serpent, I've been telling you that they use in Kemet or any other, I don't care where you go, in the Indian text, Buddhist text, the Hindu text, all of that stuff that they talk about, the Naga and all of that, they're not talking about a cobra and they're not talking about a snake. I think it's a misnomer. It was a miseducation in my opinion, and I'm going to tell you why.
Oh, you think they're talking about reps?
Huh?
You think they're talking about reptilians?
Oh, no. They're talking about worms. And let me tell you why. Because when you look up the etymology of the word serpent, it tells you that a serpent is a worm, a scorpion, a maggot, and a snake is also. So why would I choose the worm out of all of those other species of animal?
Because you ride with the worm, and that's your premise?
No, I went based off of function. I had to understand who is the best domesticator. Who would be your kundalini energy? But see, you know what else helped me with this too? I said, well, those who lay down language, right? Those who understood language were priesthoods.
Correct.
So I went even further because I knew just based on that premise, most people would be like, that's a stretch. You went etymology. Okay, I could kind of see where you're going with it, but I'm still not buying. Okay. I went a little further for you. Looked up what the meaning, and I have to thank my younger brother for this one. He was like, well, maybe you need to look up the meaning of what a worm is. What's its technical meaning? Call it an earthworm. It is known as lumbricid terrestis.
Okay, earth.
Wow.
Okay.
Lumbar.
Right.
You see your lumbar system in your spine?
Right, your spine.
Why would they call the lumbar where they say where your kundalini energy resides?
Right. So what I'm hearing is you're saying that's the nervous system of the earth.
Of course.
Okay.
But I'm not done with that.
You got more? You got more treats?
I want to, because just in case the lumbar wasn't good enough for people to understand, look at your hands. Most people, see now this part of the body, 99.99% of people, unless you are in school and you study the anatomy, would not even know this. That in your hands and in your feet, you have what is called lumbricals. Lumbricals, lumbricals. And the actual definition, there are worm-like muscles in the hands and the feet.
Well, you're making a case for this worm, huh?
So again, now some people will say, well, I don't know. You have the first 5 letters of the word actually the same. For lumbricid, L-U-M-B-R. Then you have lumbar, well, L-U-M-B, that's what it's for, and then you have the A and the R. But here's the thing. Well, R is not a vowel, so I can't even play with it that way. But lumbricals are the same. But with any word, and this is me applying, I can come back another time and talk about geonumerology, which is it's an addendum to numerology with the focus on not just numerology, but on angular momentum, history, and the arrangement of symbols to give a much more expanded definition of what a word is. That's a term that I coined it, geonumerology. And when I look at... Huh?
No, it's very interesting that you're saying that, and you're just going to leave everybody with a cliffhanger?
Well, no. I'm going to break down geonumerology because that's the only way that I can explain a little bit of how for me that any word is law. So I wanted to explain it just in case people were wondering, well, where is he pulling this from? So geonumerology tells me, or has showed me, that every word has a foundation. And the foundation of a word is within the first letters. First three letters of a word tells you the foundation of the word. So anytime I see the same first three letters of the word, I know that they all come from the same place. Geonumerology tells you the energy, whether a word contracts or expands, or is if it's a magnetic or electromagnetic. It also gives meaning, like, in numerology, the problem that ends up showing to me, because I didn't look for this science. This was something when I was developing a different style of building pyramids.
Okay.
So people could maximize their energy when utilizing a Mer pyramid. So then I started to open up to different sciences because I went hard, grew my
I can tell you went in. Everybody listening can hear you went in.
Yes, I went in. I went far left where I didn't go no place. I came back from Peru last year, in 2012, came back, and from literally October of 2012 until now, I'm starting to shake out of it where I'm really being able to integrate and communicate with people in a much more normal mindset than where I was. It was almost like a transient state where I got irritated, and it hurt my business.
I know it is for an alien. You like the brother from another planet.
I'm telling you, and it became fascinating because a lot of the things that I'm talking about and piecing it this way is different when you don't really have a reference point. Now, there are people who talk about individual aspects, like they'll talk about the worm, but to create a storyline that actually makes sense, that can tie into one another, and looking at the algorithm, I didn't really have a source of anyone talking about that, regardless of hue. So because I look everywhere. Okay, I'm looking for this. Where can I find it? Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. What I'm saying is I couldn't find it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, it became something that had to be done. So geonumerology allowed me to look at numerology. When I would look at names, and I was like, this is kind of weird to me. Like, if your name is Shanmaya, my name is Garth. Now, let's just say hypothetically for hypothetical purposes here and for conversation's sake, that both your name and my name came up to be a number 8 when you did the numerological calculations. So you would look at the number 8 and you would read the definition or if you went to a site, you'll read the definition. Okay, I'm a number 8, and whatever the description for number 8 is, that's what you would be. I would look at it and say the same thing. Well, I'm the same thing too. But in nature, there's no two things that are the same. So that's impossible. How do you differentiate that? How do you come and give a full rounded definition of a name or a word? The only time that would be the same is if you have two people named Shemaiah. Other than that, you're talking craziness with two different names. So what I had to do was I applied the science of geometry, the science of sensibility and common sense, and I looked at symbols, angular momentum of symbols, and how those symbols related in terms of placement of the letters, which helped me to expound on it. So if you could take two, since you are a number 8 and I am a number 8, right? if hypothetically speaking, I would look at both of our names doing a reading and say, well, Garth is a certain kind of number 8. We can both be number 8. We just need to get more definition. I might be a much more aggressive number 8, but you might be a more passive number 8.
Right. So you're talking about like music on the piano scale. You're dealing with octaves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then understanding what the symbol of a number 8 is. See, another thing people need to recognize as well, too, is that there is no number greater than 6. 6 is the highest number that you can go to.
Now, this is from your perspective, because a lot of times they said 9 is the highest number, then you start your order all over again.
Sure, but turn the 9 upside down.
Oh, that's how you're looking at it. Okay.
Well, let me explain. Let me expound upon that. See, nature doesn't lie. Nature doesn't lie. Let's look at this. We have the universe. What is the shape that they say the universe is in? If it's true, this is only if this is true, based on the evidence that's been put out.
About a dodecahedron?
Well, true, but it'll be a 6-sided form. They call it a hexagon because a dodecahedron, You're right, is 6-sided. Okay. Have you ever seen the images of what Saturn looks like in the middle?
Yeah, it's like a stop sign.
It's a hexagon. It's 6-sided. It forms into a 6-sided form, which would be a cube.
Right.
Hexagon. The Earth is also a hexagon. Now, how does one say that the Earth is a hexagon? It's quite simple. All circles want to have an experience and become squares. When they contract, they become hexagonal in shape. The best way to see this is if you go online and you look at bees, and when they create their honeycombs, their cells are circular. When they start to settle, they form hexagonal shapes. This is very important. It contracts that way. So that's why they say the Earth is a cube. It is a 3-dimensional cube. 6 sides, 6-sided, hexagonal shape. There is no number greater than 6. We don't see 8-sided shapes when we look at these things out in the cosmos. We see 6. Now, let me explain my ideology behind 7, 8, and 9. And then I will show you law with numbers. Law. This is not me just trying to be mystical and trying to impress everybody.
Be impressive with your fancy words, huh?
Yes. Right. I'm not trying to do none of that. I'm trying to be as simple. I'm hoping I'm being as basic as possible using the most basic terminology.
No, you're doing very well.
Oh, thank you. Because I wanted to make sure for over a year saying it will have to be as simple as possible. Everything I'm saying, because I want to make sure that I'm being clear so most average person can understand what I'm saying.
There is one thing, Garth, just for a point of clarity and out of all sincerity. The premise is letting the audience or people that are going to be listening to this program after us about human domestication, that basically we're kind of in a matrix type of experience. Is that kind of what you're wanting to drive home? Or are you wanting people to understand?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're in the matrix, but to find what it is that is domesticating us would be a very. I don't think you could point. We can simplify it and say, well, it's a source, but it's not just source. Within any time a source creates something, it's like let's look at like 2 parents, and they have 5 children, and then one of them, 4 out of the 5 children do well, great straight A students. Then you have one that's
doing 25 to life.
Yes, that's doing 25 to life, and that's bad. You don't know the outcomes. Now, you could do the best you can to control environmental conditions, but because we don't understand specific rules, you're not going to get it. And even if you understand them almost to a T, you still won't be able to control every aspect. You will come close, but you won't be able to. That's just the way it is. And that's the idea of being able to have an experience and being able to experience the process of love. And that's what this is about, understanding the process of love, the contraction and the expansion. That's what the universe is about. I don't see love the way we talk about it. I see it as a process, looking just like an hourglass, so to speak. That process of, the expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction.
Yeah. Some people call it, I guess physicists would call it compression or rarefaction. I guess
yes.
like pulling. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and that's what they're talking about. At least to me, that's what when I look at this whole matrix, like people call it, there's matrices upon matrices, because once someone identifies
yeah, that's one box you got out. You got out of one box, now you get another box.
Yeah, but look. You just got to decide which box you would like to flourish in.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Because it's not like you're going to escape it. You know what I mean? The
right.
idea of the concept of free will, there's no such thing as free will. It's the illusion. It's an illusion of free will because everything has rules. Something created something. Like
it's funny you say that because keep your thought. It's funny you say that because you're making me think about this environment that we're in, the human domestication. And earlier you talked about the sun, and you talked about the angles of the Earth, 22.5 and 23.5 and 24.5. But then it got me thinking about the sun being a rotating ball of plasma. So you got this electromagnetic field that's spinning, and then you got these angles. So we're living in this. And then you got the Schumann cavity resonance. So we're living in a vibration of 7.83 hertz or something of that nature. So we're in this musical, electromagnetic, etheric field, and depending on the angles of being made, the planetary bodies to one another and how they are hitting the Earth will determine our behavior. Because anything that modulates our DNA, so to speak, or our something more easier. When it's a full moon, people, regardless if you believe in this type of stuff that Garth and I are talking about, they know that people seem to be a little bit more wacky during a full moon, or they could be a little bit more emotional, or be prone to shoot heroin, or sniff another extra line of coke or whatever, as a result of the shifting of or the closeness of the moon being full or being a new moon. So it's kind of, I'm starting to get this whole idea of what you're saying with the 4 kids and with regards to that one kid. Well, I did the 25 to life scenario, but seeing that depending on what time of season it is and where we're at, and if it did, like you said, a 50-degree altitude will determine how much vitamin D. It's really, really interesting. And,
that's right. There's rules to this. You even have to understand how to take vitamin D supplementation, because you can go in the sun and don't OD all for vitamin D. But if you take vitamin D supplement, you can OD all for that if you take too much.
Yeah, you're gonna you're gonna be like one of those commercials, huh? Your eyeball might fall out, your liver start bleeding. You know those commercials that come on TV.
That's right. Exactly.
You take this capsule, you're gonna have a peg leg.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing with the domestication. Like, to jump back into that worm for a minute, because I'm not done with the worm. Because people are going to need to understand.
I don't think not.
No, I'm not done with the worm, because I jumped into the worm and its positioning in terms of paying respect to the worm and its power within the body, because you do not create similar words based on the foundation. When I was going into the geonumerology, I wanted to explain that and how that sensibility came into place. When you have it's almost pretty much damn near the same word. You know what I mean? It's just
that's true.
It doesn't end the same, so to speak. But here's what's interesting with the worm. Now, when you look at what happened here in America, this was the most profound about this worm business and domestication. If you don't buy nothing that I said to this point, it's hard for me to really think that anyone couldn't even at least consider the idea of domestication after what I just said. But if you didn't, then chomp on this for a second. America, after the Ice Age, had killed off all the worms over here. Now, keep in mind, we're still in an Ice Age now, contrary to what people may think. We're still in an Ice Age now. So I'm talking about the period before this Ice Age that we're in, and then that Ice Age before then. Those worms were gone. Okay, so North America did not have worms. They had other little bugs like, certain beetles and
little grubs and things of that nature. Okay.
Yeah, that were doing some of the pollinating of a few things, but for the most part, the plants and the forest kind of handle their business on their own. When the invasion of the Europeans to America come in history, they make it sound nice. Oh, they brought their plants and, some of their worms came over, which is known as the European lumberseds terrestres. They brought them over here. So I was having a conversation with someone 2 months ago, and I said, how does strangers come to America not knowing the terrain, right? Come over here and able to take people who know the terrain. How do you think you can do that successfully? Within a very quick turnaround, you're talking about within 3 to 5 years' time, the atmosphere will start to change into your favor because you brought a European worm to America that would create an environment conducive for that.
You're talking terraforming.
Yes, they terraformed it. That's how they did it, and the people that were here weren't the wiser. You would never be wise. If I wanted to domesticate you, I'll bring my worm. And put it in your...
That's your secret weapon, huh?
Yes, that's the secret weapon. Or you bring army worms or any type of different types of worm. An army worm is like a caterpillar that would just eat your plants and kill out your crops.
Or you bring a musket with a couple balls and some gunpowder.
Yeah, well, look, you can do that. You can do that, but again, you don't understand the terrain. How you going to survive? How you going to survive? You're not going to survive for so long, but all you have to do is keep fighting over a period of time because you know the worm is going to do its job. Now, if you don't understand domestication and how domestication works, now keep in mind I just told you that the European lumbershed is heavy over here in America. Let me ask you this. Who is the rising power here in the world today? Who would you say? Which race, so to speak?
You talking about China or India?
China. You were right on. China. Do you know right now, if you do a search, that the Chinese...
They have the Chinese lumbar?
Yes, is over here killing the European one.
Give me a prize.
Make this up, man. It was like, in the East Coast is tearing up the Midwest. They're like, Chinese lumberset in Asia, Australia. Look, now, if you don't respect the worm, you got to respect that. That's respect.
You better recognize, huh?
You have to recognize. You have to recognize that. At least come to terms with that. If anything, you have to come with the terms. You're not making this up. They're bringing in, but it's just not the worms. They're doing it with all types of other insects. They use insects to carry diseases in the other areas. It's easy so people don't detect it. How is this done?
So you're talking about, it's really, what I'm really hearing, for the most part, most people, worry about daycare, paying the bills and working or, that 2 or 3 week vacation. So many times I don't have time to do think tanks and to think on this type of level. But what I'm hearing from you, what I'm hearing from you for people that are doing social engineering or human domestication, as you're defining it, they actually sit around and think about these things and sending army, what do you call the army of lumbars and things of that nature to take over civilizations or to encroach upon a particular area that they find of interest.
Sure. Well, again, this whole thing, what we're talking about, because see, again, looking at Egypt, and I'm going to go back to Egypt because that's the most documented civilization that we have. but all of them followed the same doctrine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When you in Egypt domesticated their people like the bee. China domesticated their people like ants. So, because humans are at the lowest on the animal chain, we think we're the highest, but we are the lowest on the animal chain.
I keep telling you, Garth, we have airplanes, we have trains, we have subways.
No question. But we can't tell when the weather coming, and the animals can detect it. They gone. We
have satellites, man.
Look, man. People still can't move fast enough. The animals know. They're like, yo, we got about 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go underground. Let's go to high ground.
Hey, Cal, let's do all that. Now, here's what's interesting about this whole domestication topic when we look at ancient Egypt, and I talked about the bee. Now, I surprise some people when I say this, because when I say they're educated by the bee, you can look at, I think it's Abydos is one of the temples that have bee hieroglyphs. You have to wonder.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Abydos, yeah.
Yeah, has the bee hieroglyphs and the bees associated with Neith, the goddess there, the bee. But here's what really got me. And when you look at what Lower Egypt was represented by, it was represented by the bee.
Right.
Upper Egypt was represented by the sedge plant. Now, earlier on, I told you that the plant manipulated and genetically modified the bee to do its work. Don't you think?
It's an intelligence, huh?
It's an intelligence. If you eat plants and foods that manipulate you, don't you think they would influence you?
So now I'm hearing psilocybin, mushrooms, and peyote, and
oh, absolutely. How do you think you really are functioning? It is the bacteria in our gut.
I was going to say the bacteria. Yes, the bacteria is really doing it, and they crave the sugar if we get too much of it, and if you try to eat healthy and they don't want to eat healthy, your opioids start
kicking in. It's a balance. They've been telling us all the time, eat a balanced meal. Like, I have a whole different respect now because
for the word balanced meal,
you have to eat everything. Look, honestly, in my opinion, after looking at the ancients move, and I'm talking about the early hominids, I'm gonna get on that Homo sapien in just a minute. You know, I ain't forget about that. You know what I mean? We're going to come to that because I want to address that too. When I looked at this whole dynamic of domestication and what I perceive what the Egyptians done, and that's where I think the word believe come from. A bee and a leaf. Bee or bee leaf. When you have a bee and a leaf. That word to me means genetic manipulation or genetic modification.
Yeah,
so
we're definitely back.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm going to say we're definitely back in that era again, that whole transhumanist program again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? They've done an absolutely magnificent job. So people say, well, who taught them the science? I said, well, you have to go to microorganisms. We don't pay enough respect. Again, it boils down to respect.
That's true. That's definitely true.
Yeah, it boils down to respect. We think if you're the top of the food chain, but I think that is the idea. And any time...
Now, what I actually heard there, it was really the bacteria is running things and just allowing us to... Even though you might not have said that, that's kind of...
Yes, no. Well, keep in mind, there are various species. I told you there are 3 different types. You got fungi, the fungi-like protists, the animal-like protists, and the plant-like protists. There's some plants. Now, see, when you deal with, fungi sometimes works together with plants, and they have a symbiotic relationship. There are some plants and trees that just don't mess with them. So you have that. And even truth be told, the concept of family in all the species, families like a family, like how we perceive like the Rockefellers or a family of people moving in a cohesive fashion. Those are very rare. You have quasi-social families that, you know what I mean?
Tribe. Yeah, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? But when you're looking at successful families, in order to be successful on this rock, you need to have a family, like ants, termites. And when I tell people, just not too long ago, on another platform, I told people that the Egyptians, nobody from outer space came here and built those temples. They learned it from, and it's the same science as the termites. On the continent, they built 8 feet tall mounds.
Those mounds, yeah.
It's the same concept that they're under, utilizing the sun and how to manipulate consciousness within the sun by utilizing the sun. And I think what the Egyptians, those who understood nature, did was they utilized the same kind of ideology that the Mayans used when they wanted to manipulate the lay person.
Okay.
They would give them a hallucinogenic drink and tell them to go into a cave and create an experience. You know what I mean? They will create this.
Now you're saying the minds or the plant itself would cause them to have the hallucinogenic experience?
No, the plant itself.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, I was just getting clarity.
The plant itself
right.
would do that. You know what I mean? And those who have engaged in like ayahuasca will could really appreciate what I'm saying. Now imagine, I don't know if anybody in the listening audience has ever done it. I've had the opportunity.
I know people who've done it.
Right. I've tried it. I've tried it on 2 occasions.
Did you have a pleasant experience, or was yours rougher?
Actually, the first time I tried the ayahuasca drink, it was an interesting experience. People were said to be throwing up, and I didn't.
That's what I say. Yeah.
Throw up and whatnot. I was pretty good. I think the environment that I was in wasn't the most conducive for really trying to do it at that particular point in time. But to answer your question, to be more specific, I saw some imagery, but I'll tell you one thing I was able to do. I was able to control my body parts like I've never been able to control them before, just based on a thought. Like, for instance, I had an itch on the lower part of my, like, mid-back, and I said, stop itching. Everything listened to everything that I said.
Interesting.
I was able to control. I was like, okay, muscle, like I could tell my calf muscle to move, and it would vibrate. So I was doing all types of stuff, like being able to get my body parts to respond to me under that state. The second time I did it, I just saw nothing but shapes, and it didn't even affect me at all. So, I don't know, maybe it's based on how it was prepared.
Well, maybe, believe it or not, maybe the shapes, believe it or not, on some level did have effect on you, because remember, you're into geometry and pyramids and things of that nature. So it could be another form of communication that maybe 10 months from now and 3 years from now, it'll hit you with that particular communication was.
You're absolutely right. I could totally vibe with that right there, absolutely. But back to the Mayans and what they've done, if what the stories say about them are true, that they would have people go into a cave of sorts, and they would, I guess, speak into it or, play music of sorts to create this kind of a transient trip. That's alchemy.
Oh, most definitely.
That's alchemy. Being able to manipulate somebody, and then the person says, wow, I had this crazy trip. You know what I mean? And if people don't think that even plants are partaking in this domestication process, not only the insects and the worms and whatnot, the plants have a huge part to play in this as well, too, because what do we live in? What would you say that? What would you call? What is the word that they use to call this place that we live, known as America? What do they describe it as? What do they say America is? They say, I live in what?
Oh, see, now my mind went to the whole Rastafari in Babylon. I know you wouldn't go there.
When people
I'm
say,
unable to read
huh?
I'm unable to read your thoughts at the moment.
No, you know what I mean? In normal lay context, they say, oh, I live in a country.
Oh, I see
right?
what you're saying. Okay.
I'm from this country. I'm from that country. Well, what I additionally did was break down this word country. Now, C-O-U-N, kun, and then we have tree. Now, C-O-U-N, the O and the U are both vowels and pronounced as kun. When I looked up the word kun, because there is no word that I could find that's just C-O-U-N, but kun, it referred me to the word can, and they say can and kun come from the same origin. Makes sense because they're all vowels. And one thing people need to understand, vowels are interchangeable, so they're related. So kun and can. So we know that the word country is a noun in its use and not a verb. So it's not like you can use something, so we can eliminate the verb aspect of the word can. Now we're dealing with just the noun aspect. Can is a container. So now when I look at a country, so that first syllable is, to me, is can meaning container. Then we have the etymological or the grammar, the magic of tree. But we use a Y, so we don't think about it being an actual tree. You know what I mean? So, but the Y is acting like a double vowel, and the Y is a vowel sometimes. And in this case,
sometimes Y, right?
Sometimes Y, and it's a Y, so we have a kun tree. So now we know that we have a container tree. When you live in a country, you're being contained by trees. Now people are going to say, oh, this brother went from worms, how are he going to explain container trees? Let me go ahead and go into trees and containing the trees. Trees. It's a two-part process, both of biological and both of artificial. Now, this is really going to be interesting. At least I think so, and I think you might think so as well. And I'm hopeful your audience could appreciate the dialogue as well. Container trees. First and foremost, with the natural trees or the trees that are brought in. You'll notice in your neighborhood. Try going to your county office, and asking them, hey, I want to plant any kind of tree that you want in your area. Just try to do that. See, the trees that are used in specific areas are there for a reason. Because, again, the symbiotic relationship that humans have with trees. Number one, we breathe out carbon dioxide.
Right, and they
give
breathe
off
oxygen.
So we need that. So the amount of trees in the area also will determine how you breathe and how
peaceful a group of people is going to be. Or if you're going to live in a concrete jungle, you're going to be agitated, living in a box.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let me tell you. You live in the box. Now, let me give you the skinny on the box. You see, the artificial aspect is that these square constructs in which we live in and walk by every day were designed and modeled after trees. Would you like to take a stab at that?
Yeah, because I'm looking at a tree with all its little rings every year, and yeah, I would like to hear you go in on that.
Yes, I will go in on this. Now, this right here. This one, I went there on this one, I think, a bit, because I think this is a bit far out. In my opinion, in my theory, under the human domestication theory, those who understand the rules of engagement in terms of domestication and in environmental conditions actually came into finding what would be the best shape to domesticate. And then they found the square as being the best shape.
Well, that makes sense. It's a 90-degree angle, so that makes it a hardship, you know.
Yes, but what about the 90-degree angle is important? 90 degrees on the color spectrum is the color lime green.
I was about to say we put it in the green level, wasn't it?
It is lime green. That's very important. So anytime you see a square, you're seeing green. Whether you look at the building, what color it is, it's emanating at the color green. But the color green is important because the color green represents oxygen. It's controlling your breath.
Right.
Very important for people to understand what I'm saying to them. When you're in a square construct, you're dealing with the color green, whether or not you see it or not. Because when the electrons are traveling from that right angle going up to the other right angle on the ceiling from the floor, it's moving harmonically until the electromagnetic aspect meets the magnetic aspect where they don't get along in the right angle corners. That's why in a lot of spiritual or like groups like the Yoruba or the voodoo
feng shui.
In the feng shui, they tell you stay away from the corners. That's because the right angles, or they say evil spirits.
Right, yeah, they walk through the cracks of the walls, right.
Right, you know what I mean, because of the right angle. But see, again, when I keep saying being controlled by the breath, it's everything. The angles, even when you do know that when you stop at the red light, every time that you're driving and in a car, you're at the red light, you're being reminded of a creation story. The creation story is the story of oxygen on this planet. You see what I'm saying? It's the story of oxygen.
So you're saying the red is we're being deprived of oxygen or to be mindful of it?
No, red is oxygen. Red is the highest. That's how it emanates. That the highest form of oxygen is red. It emanates at the color red. Green is the lower aspect of oxygen. And yellow is the mix of the two. So when you're at the red light, you're being reminded how you got here. You just don't know it.
That's very interesting because they could have used pink, purple, and white.
Sure. Well, purple.
Well, white wouldn't have did it because you couldn't see right here.
Well, white wouldn't have made as much sense.
Right, exactly. That's why I stand corrected on that one.
Right. It wouldn't have made much sense. Purple would have made sense to, or violet color would have made sense. But now you're talking about nitrogen and protein.
Right.
That's the higher form of protein. Like if you want to control somebody, now you're dealing with utilizing nitrogen and protein in those colors.
Hey, Garth, now I'm talking about biosecurity now, messing around with you.
Yeah. No question, man.
Yeah, you about to make a watch list. if you're not on there already.
Look, man, it is what it is. I don't concern myself because, see, now, by you saying this, what we're moving into, everything I'm saying here is learning what this whole thing is about and why people want to control your soul. They want to control your organism, control your life. Why is your life so important? So as a domesticator, I had to put myself in a domesticator's shoes. What is so important? Everything I just said. What is so important? From the bee to the worm and all of this other stuff? The importance is learning how to die. If I control how you die, then I can control the atmosphere. That's the key. Yes. But see, people get nervous when they hear die. Let me go into die and break down die for you. There are 3 types of dye. We have DYE, color. We have DIE, which we call death no longer being here. Then we have DI, like in dimethyltryptamine.
Right.
Which means 2. We just talked about urine and,
right, spinning
earlier.
Right.
That's the key. You want to learn how to die, DI. Now, let me show you law, and I have to thank my younger sister for this one. When I was breaking down this concept, she said, well, yeah, well, die, utilizing your methodology, is id. She said, yeah, the
sure
id
enough,
is
backwards,
psychology.
it's definitely id,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and if it's true that when you come when you're born, the id comes with you.
Correct, right.
It comes here with you. Now, when you die, it's controlling that id, whatever that force is, when you leave. Now, in order to control your death, that means when you look at the process and how you leave this, how the atmosphere leaves, and this isn't a lot of the ancient texts when they talk about, like the Egyptian Book of the Dead and all of this, or
and I was actually thinking Tibetan Book of the Dead too.
Yes, and the Tibetan. See, all of this stuff, they're telling you about a process. Everything I'm telling you about, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah,
they just put it in mythology so people will not associate with Earth. So you won't learn how to die. To die meaning two, not die, D-I-E, meaning because the letter E is acting as a hermaphrodite. It's a 2-in-1. It's actually a 2 and 3. It represents the male and female attributes symbolically. That's what the letter E is. The letter E is the most used letter in the English alphabet.
Interesting.
Letter E. So it's a 2-in-1. So you take that letter E, the E, and you add that. That is the letter E also deals with movement of spirit, like spiritual movement, like moving, animation. And the letter E deals with the color lime green. So now I know that's what they're talking about. It's electromagnetic. It moves. That's the color it is. All of the colors in the alphabet, geonumerology shows you that all you will see, majority of the colors are greens and blues. And what is that? Oxygen and nitrogen. And then you have a few colors coming towards the end of the alphabet, like your X, W's, and Y's that play around in some of the yellows, and then and at the beginning of some of the letters. I'm going off the top of my head. I don't have my charts in front of me at this point in time. But some of them you have a few reds. Some of them do exhibit some reds. But you're talking about oxygen. Our alphabet system is based on your breathing and how you pronounce them. That's why the word is so important. This is a science that has not been brought forth by no one that I've seen, and I've tried to find it so I can have a basis, but I had to do the work. I lost a lot of sleep. I lost a lot of weight, and I wasn't even hungry. I was so focused on doing it, grew my hair out and everything. A lot of things in order to get to this point to be able to explain it in a coherent fashion to you. It took me a lot of man hours putting this work in.
I definitely feel that coming across you, and like I said, I definitely feel that coming across you, and I could see that you put the work in, and just the idea. It's almost like you've been on the mountaintop and you've been away for a while, and you coming down to the valley and wanting to express this knowledge, like this insight that the masses around you could appreciate, and I could really appreciate the work that you put into it. And I really, we have to do this again because I know we're coming up on the time here. It's been almost 2 hours, Brother Garth, and it doesn't seem like the time went by that quick at all.
Absolutely, absolutely, definitely. Because I'd like to touch at least next time. We can definitely go ballistic with words, with the geonumerology and the concept of learning how to die. I needed to get that in there because
I was going to say that. That's the part I think is really, really important. The concept of learning to die.
Yes.
Me personally, I know that this physical form has a short vapor. We're here for a short vapor, but I know that the animate aspect of who we are continues to go on.
Of course. Well, of course. It's always a process of trying to leave the planet. If you can control people enough to keep their energy levels low enough so they won't build up enough energy to exit the planet and have influence.
I know we're coming up on a close, but I would like to explore that and not leave it as a cliffhanger.
Sure.
Why do you think it's important? Do you think, why do you think it's important to keep us within the boundaries of our Earth or our particular solar system?
Well, it's the Earth itself. When you want to influence anything or change the energy, right? Like, let's look at it this way. Imagine a room that you feel are people that maybe a room full of no do-gooders. They ain't no do-gooders. You want to get out, but you're a do-gooder. And you have all these so-called bad people in this room, and you want to get out of that, right? So you strive ahead of everyone in this room in order to be able to break out of that room that you were in and you were subjugated to. But if you were a domesticator and you recognize that and you found your pathway, you want to keep all these people because you feel you've been educated in a sense of, I see the big picture. I can do this and express myself in whole court in the universe if I'm able to do that. So only a chosen few are able to learn how to die and control their death the way they see fit. You know what I mean? And if anybody had a near-death... Huh?
I think I'm getting an understanding what you're saying.
Sure. It's geometric, man. This is geometry. Like, if you ever had a near-death experience, I had one as a young man.
Yeah, I have.
I'm not sure what yours was like, but when I saw my life flashing in front of me, it seemed like if you blink your eyes real fast, you know what I mean, and kind of a oblong circle shape, but moving like picture frames real fast or eyes closing real fast as I saw my whole life, flash in front of me. That's geometry because I was able to identify a shape. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And for me, it was really profound. I never forgot that experience. So when I look at this thing here, I think you can control your geometry and learn how to build up energy. But how you navigate your life, like knowing and doing what you want to do, is a great part of navigating yourself if you want to leave the planet, because it's a prison planet. The planet is protected itself from the sun, and that's why it has an electromagnetic field, because the Earth didn't always have it. If it's true the Earth didn't always have it, that means that either, number one, the sun always didn't influence the Earth, but when it did begin to influence the Earth, it created an electromagnetic field.
See, that's what maybe, by you saying it, it's making my mind think about the physicist Dr. Paul Laviolette talking about the pulsars. Yes. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I'm familiar with him. I can't recall his concept in totality.
Yeah, the series of the pulsars, a particular star system, and where these pulsars or these stars are used as directed towards the Earth as sort of like a communication line, so to speak, between whoever was beyond our particular boundary. That makes me think about a whole lot of things about the sun keeping us within us on the Earth layer. This is something that we really need to explore on a further conversation because
I agree.
It's really fascinating to me, and I know there should be a few people that would really appreciate this and really things that they've been pondering but really didn't have anyone to talk to about and or talk to about.
They can talk to me, boy.
Right, exactly. So with that being said, is there a way? Could you give out your email or your website for them to, if you so choose, for them to reach out to you?
Sure, absolutely. I'll give all of my social media platforms for people to reach out. I can be reached, if you have a Facebook, you can reach me at Garth Harvey. Fairly simple. That's GarthHarvey, Garth Harvey. And, send me a friend request and just let me know where you heard me at or whatever the case may be. I answer pretty quick because I like to keep communications with people. Or if you have a Twitter, you can reach me at MER, that's M-U-R, Pyramid Power on Twitter. So that's at MER Pyramid Power on Twitter. If you want to reach me via email, I can be reached at MER, M-U-R, Meditation, Pyramids, that's plural with an S, meditationpyramids.com. So meditationpyramids.com. And you can reach me on any one of those 3 platforms. And if you have any questions in regards to this conversation that we're having here, I'll be more than obliged to, of course, respond to your email in the most concise and accurate way as possible. But definitely, I enjoyed it, as I always do, Brother Shemaiah. Just let me know when you want me to come back, because I really want to explore the idea of death, the idea of how you can, the idea of relationships and how to at least have a better understanding in terms of personal eugenics. That's what I call it, personal eugenics.
Yeah, that's something.
So all that ties into learning how to die and understanding a little bit. I'd like to explore a little bit more like the brain aspect, which goes into the relationship stuff as well, too. I got some other ideas that I'd like to share with the family on that. So just let me know when it's advantageous for you, and, I'm ready to go as always.
I definitely will. And, Brother Garth, I want to thank you again for making the time to educate myself and the people that's going to be listening to this in the future. And until next time we get together, I really look forward to going in again.
Same here. And I hope everyone has a good evening, a great weekend. And thank you once again, Shemaiah. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, I'll talk to you offline as well, too, brother.
You got it. I appreciate it.
All right, peace. Thank you again.
Peace.